Let's see. Anything else you wanted to go over? Any questions you had?
Just what I'm reading on the second part of the reading, part two, where it has all the flows going up and down, up and down. Lots of questions about, you know, what did it affect? Did this go up? Did it go down? What about year
Oh,
one? What about year two?
yes.
To me, that's very confusing. I mean, I had to keep going back to the charts and just seeing what the charts said because
Yeah, it is. That can be confusing. It's quite a brain teaser in many respects. Uh, let me see if I can find it. And see if I can explain it a little bit better. Where is that? It's in 5.
it was the second part in five, part two.
Right. Okay. Periodic system.
It's all about the effects of inventory. Well, that was inventory errors, I think is where all this was showing up. How it affects if you understate or overstate.
Yeah. It's not on right here. Nope. I think it's the next one.
Yeah, it's a little farther because it was past this.
Yeah. Lower of cost or market.
There we go. Now we're getting into that. It's before this. Yeah.
Before this.
Yeah, just a page or so. If you go down.
There we
Um,
go.
effects on inventory errors.
Yeah. Okay.
And then see all these little charts. That's why I was saying if I have to try and memorize all these things, it's going to be crazy. For like year one, year two, you don't have that to go and it's really hard. I mean, you can try to think through it, but it's really difficult.
Yeah, this is one where I've tended to suggest that you actually work out a sample problem and see what it might have an effect on. It's hard to demonstrate this though in a clear way because it tends to be a little complicated, but let me see if I can take a stab at it.
Well, yeah, and I just took one. I added $200 to, the ending inventory and just tried to work it out to see what it did. And
Yeah.
then you have to go to the net income, but then it pulls you into year two, and it just gets to be a little bit complicated.
Yep. Yeah, this one always tends to be a bit of an issue for most students, including me. I mean, it is a brain teaser. So if, let's say, my ending balance, let's say it should have been 100, or it is stated balance and actual. Okay. They might call this like as reported and then your actual. Let's say it's $80,000, right? The actual amount is 80. So right now it's overstated, right?
Mhm.
So it's overstated. Let's put it up here.
Up here, yeah.
Overstated based on this value. So the question is, does it have any, okay, we'll forget revenue. Well, they're just talking about cost of goods sold and net income. Well, let's keep revenue there for just grants. Let's say the revenue is 200,000. And let's just say for whatever reason, we're just making this up just to figure out how this works. It makes it a little better. 2 million. Let me add some. Oops, I didn't want percentages. I wanted that. There we go. And we'll make this smaller. Okay, it's overstated. So let's just say for grins that the cost of goods sold is $1 million. And then the net income is the difference between this minus that, right? Really calling gross margin, but since they're asking for net income impacts, we'll just call it net income. The impact's the same from gross margin all the way down. So because it's overstated by $20,000, it doesn't change anything to the revenue side, right? It's only going to change it to the cost of goods. So effectively, what we would have to do to correct it, right, the adjustment is going to be the difference between these two. So then you'd have to say, okay, well, what would my adjustment end up being? Is it a debit, a credit, whatever, right? So to decrease the value from what it's stated to here, then you're effectively doing a credit to the inventory, right? That means the opposite side would be a $20,000 debit, which effectively then makes cost of goods sold, if I'm doing this right, let's just do this to make it easier. So we can change up the equation a little bit. So then my cost of goods sold is 1.02, and right, we got this. Now if we do this minus that, we get 980,000. So when you're looking at this now, my COGS is understated, and my net income is overstated. Let's move these. Cut, paste, and this is overstated. Now, did I get that right? Did that match the?
Yeah, it follows the little overstated, understated, overstated.
Yeah, right. So year one, cost of goods sold is over on
Under, oh yeah,
over. Yeah,
over, yeah.
under, over, yeah, okay. Now that's in this particular year. The year two issue is a little bit more of a issue. So let's not focus on that quite yet. Let's just run the other scenario. So let's just take this right here, right? We'll copy this and we'll just paste it down here. So we're going to take those out. We'll take this out. And we're going to take that out. Okay, so same. Let me do a little view, freeze the pane. Okay, so now I can go down. All right. So now with the scenario where we want it to be understated, which means that the actual balance is 120. Let's say, well, let's make it a different number. Okay, so now our adjustment is going to have to be 50,000, but we're going to have to do a debit on this one, which means we're going to have to do a credit on this one, which then means for the 50,000, right? But that's going to be a negative 50,000, just to make sure that our math is all right. Did I do that right? Credit, debit brings the amount down. So now this is overstated. No, yeah, overstated. And this is understated. Does that work? So if in inventory is understated, our cost of goods sold is overstated, and our net income is understated. Okay, so that works. That's the visual numerically of this table for year one. Then effectively year two is just the opposite, right? Because then you have to, because these numbers aren't stated correctly, the year after that would just be the reverse of what you see here. And it kind of walks you through that right here. If
because you're going to take your inventory to the next year. The ending is going to go to the beginning. That's why it's going to be the same.
Yep. Yep.
To start out with, is that right?
It's just going to be opposite, right? So your overstatement becomes an understatement for year two. for cost of goods, and your net income is just going to be the opposite. Understated is going to be overstated, because the timing issue from one year to another is just going to carry over and make an inverse impact.
And then it said when you get to year 3 in the book, it's basically doesn't affect anything. And why is that at that point that year 3 is
Because you've already,
unaffected?
it's already gone past the timing difference, right? Year 3, it's caught up to the correct number, unless you make an adjustment.
Okay.
So it usually only has a 2-period impact.
Okay.
The period that was recorded incorrectly, and the period after it, but not any periods beyond that.
Because it would be corrected again. You'd
Yeah,
start out correct.
that's right. In year 2, you would have corrected it, but the timing just places the value in the wrong period.
Okay.
It's sort of like the payroll. Let's say the payroll issues where we're accruing before. I might under accrue payroll in one period, but more than likely the next period I pick it up because I've over accrued it, or I've corrected it because I paid it out, right? The cash ends up being the same in the long term, but when it's recorded is different month to month. And this is the same thing. In the long run, it all gets corrected, but from one period to another, the adjustment is just off, or
But that's when
the
it's
value is
taking
off.
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
You discover it and correct it in the following. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, again, this is all that memorization, trying to figure it out and trying to remember everything. It gets a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, and this one, I would say, if you're having a hard time memorizing it, then use
Just
this
work it
type
out.
of an approach to work it out, right? Create a
Mhm.
scenario where it's overstated, create a scenario where you're correcting it, and then walk the debits and credits through and see what it ends up looking like,
What it's doing.
what it
Yeah.
should be versus what it is, and seeing what the value, whether it's under or overstated. And that'll be your better way of staying out of your head and into
Yeah.
something you can visualize and actually understand a little bit better than trying to work it
Memorization.
out. Yeah.
And that's what I've been trying to do, understand why I'm getting those over and under, try to just understand it. And then,
Yep.
yeah. All righty. Well,
Okay.
here we go. Another week
Here we go. Another
in
week.
the book.
Only 3 more left after this one.
Hurrah, hurrah.
Yeah. All
Anyway, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. It's been a lot of work though. A lot of brain power.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, have a good rest of your week. Hope all is
Okay.
well.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bye.